Namaste. Welcome to the Advaita channel on the Sangha of Being. Anantaji Kiche, Sangha Kiche. Welcome, I'm Atma. I will read from Song of the Avadhut. I will read from internet, so it's a long time that I've not been here reading. So I'm very happy for, again, this possibility of being able to read. Again, Song of the Avadhut, because I've already read, if I remember well, 2 times. So let's start this adventure of the Avadhut and the Song of the Self, because he's speaking directly from the Self, actually singing this Song of the Self to all of us. So let's begin. Anantachiki. I hope that my sound and video is good. Just a moment. I hope that audio is okay and that you can hear me properly. So I will begin. Chapter 1. Before I begin, I would like to say I may read one verse and then may be in silence. Depends how it will unfold here, how I will feel. So I may also read 2 or 3 verses, or may repeat. So let's see how it will unfold today. All good here. Stacy said, thank you, Stacy. Thank you. Thank you. Happy to have you here, Stacy. Let's begin then. So, just a moment. I didn't check before. Okay. Truly, it is by the grace of God that the knowledge of unity arises within. Actually, from the first sentence, he said that everything which really happens is by the grace of God. Everything is grace. So he says, truly, it is by the grace of God that the knowledge of unity arises within. Then a man is released at last from the great fear of life and death. In the very first verse, he liberates us from the suffering, saying that in the knowing that everything happens by the grace of the God, in that very knowing in our heart, we are released from the fear of life and death, because life happens by the grace and death happens by the grace. So everything is a grace. Namaste, Amaya. Namaste, very happy to have you here. I hope you will enjoy. As I said before in the beginning, I don't know how it will unfold. I may read 1 verse or 2 or 3, or then may comment or say what I feel, which I already did with the first verse. So I feel like really enjoying this reading, new reading of Song of the Avadhut, because I've already read 1 time or 2 times, but every time is new because I'm new. I'm fresh and new every time. So then he says in the second verse, all that exists in this world of forms is nothing but the self, and the self alone. How then shall the infinite worship itself? Shiva is one undivided whole. The 5 subtle elements that combine to compose this world are as illusory as the water in a desert mirage. To whom then shall I bow my head? I myself am the stainless one. Actually, he immediately says that there is no duality between myself and the world, between myself and the self, because I'm the self. So from the very beginning, it's very clear that we are the self, and whatever we do, it is the self doing for itself. There is no duality. Truly, all this universe is only myself. It is neither divided nor undivided. How can I even assert that it exists? I can only view it with wonder and awe. We may stop a little bit just in silence to absorb these words. This is the beauty and the power of the direct, of the speaking from the direct experience of the self, that just after 2 sentences and verses, just this truth which stands behind these words, it has possibility to how to say, to make us, to lift up us into the higher level of consciousness. That's the beauty of this song. What then is the heart of the highest truth, the core of knowledge, the wisdom supreme? It is, I am the self, the formless one. By my very nature, I am pervading all. He's speaking from his self to himself, to all of us, which we are the self. So very direct, powerful. That one God who shines within everything, who is formless like the cloudless sky, is the pure, stainless self of all. Without any doubt, that is who I am. So let's repeat these words and stay in silence in the beauty and the light of them. That one God who shines within everything, who is formless like the cloudless sky, is the pure, stainless self of all. Without any doubt, that is who I am. I am the infinite and immutable one. I am pure consciousness without any form. I don't know how or to whom joy and sorrow appear in this world. Here he says that the pure consciousness, which we are without any form, the sorrow and even joy, does not appear to the consciousness, but in the consciousness. Therefore, he says, I don't know how or to whom joy and sorrow appear in this world, because everything just happens. I have no mental karma, either good or bad. I have no physical karma, either good or bad. I have no verbal karma, either good or bad. I'm beyond the senses. I'm the pure nectar of the knowledge of the self. We are the pure awareness in which even this beingness, this Atma, takes place and is born. But we, as awareness, as the absolute, as the self, it's the same thing, absolute awareness of self. We are untouched by anything. So to whom the sorrow or joy can appear. It is what he says. Beautiful. The mind is formless like the sky, yet it wears a million faces. It appears as images from the past or as worldly forms, but it is not the supreme self. He says that even though the mind, everything is contained in the mind, and the mind appears as like everything, like memory, like images, but that is not a self, because that of all of that we can see the form. Even thoughts have a form, even memories have a form, everything has a form, but what we are is a formless one. I'm one, I'm all of this, yet I'm undifferentiated beyond all forms. How then do I regard a self as both the unmanifested and the manifested world? That's what we are. It's beyond words. That what we are is present and fresh every moment. It can be spoken. The moment we speak, we are already, if I can say, in a way, in a kind of untruth. The moment we speak, because that what we are is so. It contains everything. It's beyond everything, and yet is very present here, but not as a form. You also are the one. Why don't you understand? He says. You are the unchanging self, the same within everyone. You are truly illimitable. You are the all-pervading light. For you, how can there be any distinction between the day and night? This is so beautiful also as a form of poetry. So beautifully said. Understand that the self is continuous being. It's the same what Father says when he asks, and he said, can you stop being? You cannot stop being. It's continuous. It never ends. So he said, understand that the self is continuous being, the one within all without any division. The I is both the subject and the supreme object of meditation. How can you see two in that which is one? The meditation and the meditator are one. The seer and seen are one. That is the deepest message of the Song of the Avadhut. There is only one. Neither birth nor death pertain to you. You have never been a body. It is well known that all is Brahman. The scriptures have stated this in various ways. You are that which is both inside and out. Actually, he says, there is nothing which is not you. Whatever you can see, perceive, even unseen, untouchable, unperceived, all that you are. So there is nothing which is outside you. You are all and everything. So how can you suffer if you are all and everything? We can suffer only if we divide up into likes and dislikes, and the very division, the first division on likes and dislikes. I like this, I don't like this. This is the first, maybe not first, but one of the basis division, which makes this duality possible. Without likes and dislikes, for the one who contains everything. For that one, there is no suffering. There is not even not suffering. That concept does not exist. You are Shiva. You are everything, everywhere. Why then are you so deluded? Why do you run about like a frightened ghost? Because we do that, we are deluded because we are unconscious of our true nature. And because of that, we search. Because we are not conscious that we already are, that's what we are searching for. That is the whole play of duality. So he says, there is no such thing as union or separation from me or for you. There is no me, no you, no manifold world. All is the self and the self alone. Just appears to our mind that there is me and the other, that there is this one here and the rest of the world. And he says, actually, there is no division like that. What appears to a mind like other or the world is all the self, because it's projection which comes from the consciousness into the outside world. So it seems like there is division between this and this, but it's only a projection of consciousness itself. You can be heard or smelled or tasted. You can be seen or sensed by touch. Truly, you are the ultimate reality. Why then should you be troubled so? He's exposing, saying, our true nature. So he's very much aware that most of us are not still aware of our true nature. And by asking this, he is actually not asking the question or wanting the answer to the question why you are not aware who you are. But by this, what I feel by these questions, he's provoking, triggering the very search and the very light inside of us to open itself to ourselves. So this holy scripture, this song of the Avadhut is true, like a tool to trigger inside of us the very search and the very seeing. This very instant can be finished, the search for the self, if only one is open and willing enough to be open and to feel these words and to let them sink into the heart directly. So if you are still watching this, you can just with me, you try just to be, or try just to relax totally, and without trying to understand the meaning of the words, because the meaning is hidden in between the words. Without trying to understand the meaning, you just allow the energy of the words to sink into the heart, your heart, and then let the energy be there, and it will does its work for you. You just be relaxed and open, and that's the only thing which is needed. So he says, neither birth, nor death, nor the active mind, nor bondage, nor liberation affects you at all. Why then, my dear, do you grieve in this way? You and I have no name or form. O mind, why are you so deluded? Why do you run about like a frightened ghost? Become aware of the indivisible self. Be rid of attachment, be happy and free. He's like speaking to the mind, like asking, but actually mind cannot understand the invisible self, because the mind is only the part of the self, and the part cannot understand the whole thing, cannot understand the whole. Not by understanding mentally, but the part can relax into the whole, and by relaxing can realize that is already the self and the whole, like seeming personality, which does not exist, but by the means of the consciousness and our constant awareness and attention of to the consciousness and awareness of consciousness can help the mind process to, or the mind to relax into the very consciousness. And by relaxing into the consciousness, mind actually disappears, if ever existed. But let's say, even if it existed, it disappears into the consciousness in this relaxation, and then only in the visible self exists, in which even the mind is a very useful tool for the life and practical things. Truly, we are the unchanging essence of everything. He's speaking to our absolute and highest, not only potential, but what we are. So he doesn't go through the consciousness, even not through the mind, not through the consciousness. He's directly speaking to us as we are. Truly, you are the unchanging essence of everything. You are the unmoving unity. You are boundless freedom. You have neither attachment nor aversion. Why then do you worry and succumb to desire? What I feel about desire is like, this very life is desire. Without the desire, for example, for this body to live, without this desire, body cannot live. Without the desire of eating, sleeping, resting, drinking, body cannot exist. So the nature of this life as it is, what I feel, I speak from my experience, is that desire is the very nature of life. But our desires, our unfulfilled desires, became our suffering. It's not because of the desire, because for making big things happen, to create small or big things, we are always ruled by desire. Without the desire to create, to do something, nothing will be created in the outside world, or even this being cannot be created in its highest potential. So there is always some desire also to be liberated, desire for moksha, for freedom. So it's what I feel. It's not in the nature of desire, that desire is the wrong thing, but because we are unconscious, because we do things compulsively, then desire becomes like suffering, because we do things in circles. We are not conscious. We are not able sometimes to like we have desire to create something, then we expand that desire, we create, then we like bring back this desire. If we are unconscious, this same desire remains still and does itself by itself. So that compulsive working of our unconsciousness makes these desire and us make desires to make us suffer something. It's something like that, what I feel. It's not actually about desire, but about who is desiring, and is that one conscious or unconscious. Actually is all and always about us, not about anything what is happening, not even in our mind or outside. It's all about us, if we are conscious or we are not conscious of what is happening. All the scriptures anonymously, sorry if sometimes I'm not able to pronounce properly the word. All the scriptures anonymously declare that the pure, formless, undifferentiated reality is the essence of all forms. There is absolutely no doubt about this. Here he says that which is not, which has not form, which has never born on that or died, that which is not actually manifested as a form, that is the source of all the forms. All forms understand are only temporary manifestations. Only the formless essence eternally exists. That is the absolute, that is the self. Once this truth is realized, there is no more necessity to be reborn. That is the ultimate liberation. But it's possible. Here he's speaking about everything which is possible to everybody of us. Because if one being was able to realize that, every other being is able. Depends only of if someone has desire to be liberated, only about that. The only reality is ever the same. This is what old wise men say. Whether you embrace or renounce desires, the one consciousness remains unaffected. Actually, what he said also about the nature of desire, it doesn't depend on desire, but about the consciousness. Are you conscious? Are you conscious of everything or not? Are you aware? In awareness, even desires are beautiful, because these desires helps beingness, helps consciousness to create what consciousness wants to create. It is the basis of all creation is desire, actually. But how it will affect our lives is if we are aware of it or not. The only difference is actually in awareness. Are we aware or we are not aware? If you see the world as other than the self, can that be the experience of unity? If you see it is the self, can that be the experience of unity? If it's seen as both the self and not the self, can that be the experience of unity? The true state of freedom is to see everything as one. That is the freedom. You are the pure reality, always the same. You have no body, no birth, and no death. How then can you say, I know the self? Or how can you say, I don't know the self? It is what he says here, like, how can you, who can then says, I know the self? Who knows the self? If the reality is always the same. What he says here is that in the ultimate reality, which we are, pure reality, there is no knowledge of the self as the knowledge that we know. There is nobody to claim I'm the self, I'm aware. There is just the self and only the self. And everything is the self. That is the liberation. To know it, not to think about it, just to know it and to live as the self. The saying that thou art affirms the reality of your own true self. The saying, not this, not this, denies the reality of the 5 composite elements. He says, I'm the self, and I'm not the body. 5 composite elements which creates the body and earth and this material existence. He's speaking about these 5 composite elements. So the saying, not this, not this, denies the reality of 5 composite elements. It's like you say, I'm not this, I'm not the body. It's not that you mentally always repeat, I'm not the body. It's more like saying in understanding that I'm not the body. The self is the infinite, the self is the identity of everyone. You are everything, the unbroken whole. The thinker and the thought do not even exist. Oh mind, how can you go on thinking so shamelessly? In the self, as the one, there is nobody, no entity to think, or even to say I exist. He's speaking about the ultimate reality, which is beyond consciousness, beyond this beingness, beyond God. That ultimate reality from where even the God is born. So in that ultimate reality which we are, there is no duality. So there is no even someone who can say, I'm the being, or I see the being. There is no that one, because there is only pure self, pure awareness. It is formless state of pure awareness. So in the next verse he says, I do not know Shiva, how can I speak of him? I do not know Shiva, how can I worship him? I myself am Shiva, the primal essence of all. My nature, like the sky, remains ever the same. Actually, he says, I'm the Shiva, the primal essence, so I cannot speak about Shiva, about myself. I cannot worship myself because I'm Shiva, I'm that the self. This is the highest knowledge of the self. So this Song of the Avadhut is the highest knowledge in the words, spoken by one who is aware of his highest knowledge, of his highest position as the self. So it's very precious, this Song of the Avadhut. Even if it's written in a very simple language, it speaks the real truth. Sometimes people who are used to old scriptures, for them this can be like Song of the Avadhut, like too simple, too like nothing. Or maybe those who appreciate the mental verbal explanations. But the Song of the Avadhut is for those who, for everybody, but especially for those who are ready to just absorb the energy of the song. Then these words can do something to you. Because they are not ordinary words. They are spoken by, from, and through the direct experience. So they have a potential to transform you, not only to give some, how to say, some pleasure to your mind, not only for that. It's not this poetry, this song is not like ordinary poetry, because this is poetry beyond poetry. I'm the essence, the all-pervading essence. He's actually speaking about me, about you. I'm the essence, the all-pervading essence. I have no form of my own. And when we read this, we are reading ourselves. I have no form of my own. I'm beyond the division or subject and object. How could I possibly be an object to myself? He says, there is nothing outside myself. There is no such thing as an infinite form. The infinite reality has no form of its own. The one self, the supreme reality, neither creates nor sustains nor destroys anything. It always is. You are that pure and unchanging essence. You have no body, no birth, no death. For you, how could such a thing as delusion be? How could delusion exist for the self? If one only can feel these words in their heart, it can be a momentary transformation. When a jar is broken, the space that was inside merges into the space outside. In the same way, my mind has merged in God. To me, there appears no duality. When the seeming ego is actually, we identified ourselves with the shadow, with the body, and ego is like a shadow. And then we, once that identified with the body, with physical existence, then we live, walk, and do everything as limited being. So once this seeming shadow of ego is dissolved into the God, into the ultimate reality, then we see that there was never duality. It was just seeming duality because we were identified with something which is like a shadow. And that shadow appears like separate from God, from the whole. So he says, when a jar is broken, it can be used also for the mind, for the ego. When a jar is broken, the space that was inside merges into the space outside. Actually, it was always the same space, but because of the seeming boundaries of ego and the shadow and shape of body, we thought they were like two spaces. And here he explains simply but very clearly, when a jar is broken, the space that was inside merges into the space outside. In the same way, my mind has merged in God. To me, there appears no duality. Then in the very second verse, he says, truly, there is no jar, no space within. Actually, what I already said. There is no jar, no space within. There is no body and no soul in chest. Please understand, everything is Brahman. There is no subject, no object, no separate parts. It's because of our delusion and our identification with the body. It's the first, as I feel, the first identification with this body. And then all other illusions started, because we walk, we live in this physical body as the body, but if we are totally identified, then we feel limited because body has limitations. But our true nature always feels like expanding, like becoming not even more, but wants always to become everything. So in this seeming process of self-realization, of the path of the self-realization, searching, in this seeming process, we actually gradually, for somebody is really momentary, but for most of us it's gradual process in which we are gradually, constantly becoming aware of what we are not really, and what is that what we became identified with. So in this conscious process of revealing our true nature, actually through the seeing what we are not, we can gradually seeing that this seeming ego actually never existed, because it was just because we identified ourselves with a small thing as the body and mind, and then the whole mind process and the body feelings and sensations, then we became like one with that, and we were not able to see the real self, which stands behind and before and beyond. But there is always something in our nature which wants to expand and want to become really all and everything. It's only because we are already that. So all this process of seeming process is actually like needed, but never existed, as he said. Truly, there is no jar, no space within. There is no body and no soul. Please understand, everything is Brahman. There is no subject, no object, no separate parts. Everywhere, always, and in everything. Know this. The self alone exists. Everything, both the void and the manifested world, is nothing but myself. Of this I'm certain. There is nothing which is not the self. So in knowing this, all suffering disappears, if ever existed. So in the next verse, he's just denying everything. There are no divine scriptures. Actually, there are no divine scriptures, no world, no imperative religious practices. There are no gods, no classes or races of men. He's speaking of ultimate. No stages of life, no superior or inferior. There is nothing but Brahman, the supreme reality. All this, what he says before, it's like religious practices, scriptures, divine classes, races of men, stages of life, superior, inferior. All this exists in the mind, but not in the reality. But because we are identified with our mind process, we think all these things are real. He's saying here that there is nothing like this for the supreme reality which we are. The subject and object are unseparated and inseparable. That undivided one is you. When this is so, when no other exists, how could the self be objectively perceived? Actually, here is all the like the core of the whole teachings of our Father. Also, it can be said in these lines. I will repeat: the subject and object are unseparated and inseparable. That undivided one is you. When this is so, when no other exists, how could the self be objectively perceived? It's done, finished, can be finished here. I also feel like it's not full hour of reading, but Song of the Avadhut can be, it's enough, it's 40 minutes, and I think even so too much has been said. I feel like finishing here for today, and I would also like to stay a little bit with all this, with this energy. If you feel like sharing something, but I see only Amaya still. I hope it's here, and Stacy, but on YouTube nobody is hangout. But if you feel like sharing anything, I'm still here. We can share together. Or if you want me to repeat something or just stay in silence, please say. Thank you, Stacy. Stacy says, thank you so much. Very beautiful. Silence good here. Love you so much. Love you too. Yes. Love you too so much. Yes, it's okay to be in silence, so we can stay. Thank you. Thank you so much for being today here together in this adventure of the Song of the Avadhut. Ever fresh and new recognition again of the self, for the self. Thank you so much. Ananta ki jai, Sangha ki jai. Thank you.